Hello everyone. We're gonna have a interesting little talk here. So, I want to ask a question. So, considering things that have been going on for the last few months without really bringing up that specific topic itself, let's talk about a little interesting thing of diversity. The whole argument about why aren't there more women or other characters and such. We usually see a lot of prominent male, big, buff dudes and stuff, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I want to focus on why don't we usually see a lot of female characters. And I want to not necessarily argue too much about it. I just want to kind of throw out my 2 cents of why we probably don't see a lot, and some things that, say, people make these arguments actually make worse. So the first thing I really want to say, and I got a few games out here that I want to talk about. First thing, to me, what really makes me connect with characters in a game and help make it more memorable are weaknesses. Characters' weaknesses. Sad, sympathetic things, flaws, human flaws. These things help you relate to somebody. That's why that's really good construction of a character, at least in my opinion. And that's one of the main reasons I think out of, say, the entire Persona series, people can relate more to Persona 3 and 4's cast versus the other 3 games, the 2 different versions of Persona 2 and Persona 1, because it has a really strong cast of characters that all have weaknesses and flaws to the human characters. And 4 is even better in my opinion when it comes to that idea, because the characters overcome and learn from their weakness to make themselves stronger. And I think that's why a lot of people drawn to it. They feel really related. Because, both games have school settings, and who can't relate to being in weird, awkward times at school? I mean, it's a fucked up time usually for most people. You have some kind of awkward thing, friendship, you're trying to figure out what kind of sexual preference you have and things. There's a lot of weird issues people experience during the school years. So I feel like that further helps people relate to one of the characters or multiple characters over issues and human weaknesses, and draws a lot of people towards that. Now, what's that have to do with, having, a female lead or something like that? A lot of times, what I see a lot of times, from my personal perspective, is when we explore that with, a female main lead, a lot of times I hear, say, the third wave feminists who argue this is sexist, that's sexist, or Bayonetta is just a display model for men to do, man things in the man caves, even though she was designed by a woman, by the way. But, how do I put it? Simply, they just call foul when the exploring of weakness of a female character comes up. Let's take, actually, I know an excellent example of something, because somebody made the exact same, where the hell is it though? Shit. Last time, is that it though? No. Shit, where is it? Oh. I don't know where it went. Well, I wanted to use Monkey Island as an example, because I think Monkey Island actually is a very excellent example. Okay, if you haven't played Monkey Island stars this blonde hair, fancy pirate dude. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. But, and it also has a female side character of that. And basically, he's a bumbling idiot who gets murdered, picked on, beaten the shit out of constantly through the Monkey Island games, where the female character is basically, perfect and has absolutely no flaws. a lot of situations, we can do whatever we want to usually a white male character, and you don't see people like, oh, that's horrible, burn the streets down and shit. But when you explore weaknesses and issues and things in a female lead, you see people... You know, I apologize. Apparently my neighbor's car went off. Fuck. Okay, good. I apologize for that. But, oh, made me lose my thought now. Like, let's take this as an example. Now, I will admit that, you know, this is a very common stereotypical and very lazy plot device, like in an RPG, like losing your memory, your parents are dead, and stuff like that. Like in the one of the newer Tomb Raiders, where that was that one scene where the guy was like grabbing Law and everyone was freaking out about being a rape scene or something like that. And, well, yeah, that's probably what that dude's mind was probably going. I'm not going to lie about that. And it was a lazy plot device. But, you know, everyone calls foul, even though, you know, she obviously breaks free and kicks fucking ass and runs away and shit. I mean, I feel like anytime that if the woman is not perfect, and of course I'm sure people will be like, well, what about Persona 4 then? You know, Chie and Yuki and Rise all have flaws and stuff, but I don't see people calling foul on them. You know, a lot of these people that are calling foul, I don't actually see really talk about a lot of the Japanese games, aside from like Bayonetta. Actually, I don't really see them talk about RPGs in general, which I think is a really weird thing. Well, I think there's usually a lot more female characters in RPGs. Because, I mean, this ain't like the first video to be like this. I've actually watched multiple videos on this exact same kind of subject about... And a lot of the people came to the same realization that they feel like a lot of RPGs have a lot better female representation, especially, ironically, versus a lot of Western games. But I just feel like if we explore the weakness, these people call foul most of the time. And of course, these are older games too. A lot of these people are targeting newer games and that. It's like, we can't make them confused or have any flaws at all, or it's the patriarch or something, sun-droning women and shit and that. I mean, there's a lot of good examples in RPGs, like, for example, Suikoden 3 not only had a female main character, but it also had a different race character who could be the main character, which I guess you could go with Indian, since his tribe is basically Indian people, basically. And of course, you have Wild Arms 3 that also had a female main lead character. To be honest, I would say she was a little more generic in a plot device, because it basically, you know, her parents are dead or that, so... But they do it pretty nicely. I'm just saying it's kind of a generic plot device there. And of course, you know, you have what H.C. Bailey's playing right now is a Christmas Let's Play and RPG... getting tongue-tied out. Remote RPGs, Mr. John Tickle, also recently did a review of Parasite Eve. This is a very good game, by the way. I definitely recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I never got the true ending, though. But Parasite Eve has a very strong character. I haven't played the PSP game, and I have heard how that game's really ruined her character, to be honest. But I don't see a lot, like, people... when they're making these arguments, they just focus on other things where you never bring up stuff for that. Or even in tag team stuff like The Last of Us, where there's both a main male and female character as the cast for the game, even though I know you play as the male character for the majority of the game. I mean, it's a tag team storyline of that, and a lot of people just cut that out. And then, of course, I don't see these people supporting, you know, like, visual novels that are aimed at girls and that. But yeah, mainly, I just feel like we can't explore weakness in a lot of women of that. Now, the whole argument of overall sexualization, there can be arguments there. I mean, I'm not saying we can't talk about that at all. I mean, generally, though, my point of view, and I know I'm definitely not the first person to say, I think for generally, it's both ways most of the time, unless they're really trying to achieve a certain thing. Like, if they're purposely wanting a killer to be naughty or something. Most of the time, I feel like, that's both a two-way train, You got buff macho dudes, and you got over-sexualized women, It's... But, I mean, that's not always the case. It's... It can be a tricky subject, but... I mean, you're not going to get away from it for either gender. I mean, it's going to exist for either gender. I mean, everything is going to exist in some form. Unless you censor it, you're not going to get rid of everything. And I'm against censoring, so deal with it. But I don't know. I just that's how I feel about the case, though. I mean, anytime we try to explore weaknesses of killers, they really want to, like, deconstruct it as some metaphor that they're being withheld or being pushed down and stuff and that. I don't feel we get to explore the killers as much. We don't get to explore them, and then there's the whole case scenario that a lot of times people don't put the money where the mouth is. You got all these people who want more divorced main killers, but when there's a more divorced killer, they're not throwing their money down. And then, say Mirror's Edge, EA said, I don't know the sell figures for Mirror's Edge, so I don't know if it was technically a good amount. But I do know, other stuff, EA bitched about, not making tons of money and stuff and that. And obviously, that it took forever for them to even get to work on a Mirror's Edge 2, which they've only just started these days. But, it's tricky. It's a tricky subject. It can be talked about, of course. It can be talked about. But I think a lot of the people that do try to talk about the subject are usually going in a very, I'm correct 100%, if you disagree, you're wrong, block, destroy the comments, let's not have any discussion at all, censor everything, yeah. And that's a complete wrong to do that. That's not the right way. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this. I wanted to start some discussion. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like we can't have interesting female main leads or that just because people feel pressure that we can't explore the weaknesses and stuff without being called sexist or the patriarch or something? It's like, oh no, you did this wrong, or you're demonizing or shit like that. I mean, what do you feel like? What do you... I mean, there's, of course, the normal argument that, obviously, the video games in the core group, consoles and PCs, is more populated with males. There's a lot of females, especially nowadays. But, the charts where it's showing that there's more female gamers than guys, that would count on your definition of a gamer, really. I mean, that study has been asked what was the qualifications, and it was basically if you played a video game one time in your life, bam, you're qualified. So everyone who played tablets, cell phone games, and stuff, they all qualified. So, I mean, if we're talking about, the kind of thing we do, it's more dominated by a lot of guys. So, there's a lot of different angles and stuff, I personally, and I know this varies from person to person, some people would prefer to play the same gender, some people like playing the opposite gender, and some people don't care. Because they're kind of my mindset where they want to explore different characters. They like getting in the minds and experiencing these people, and that's kind of how I am. I don't really care if the person's my gender or not. The only time that comes into play is if the character has absolutely, he's a blank slate. He or she is a blank slate with no character, personality, or anything. And depending on the art style, sometimes I might like playing the opposite sex, or I might want to play as a male character. I mean, kind of varies. Or in the case of Dark Souls 2, I do both. Yay for sex change coffin. Don't ask me. You go play Dark Souls 2. You'll find out that way. But I don't know. I would like to hear your thoughts. I mean, seriously, go down below and tell me what you think. That's my thoughts. I mean, I don't know how much to really go more into detail of it. I don't really care about who I play as long as they're really just an interesting character. They can be white, African, Indian. They can be male, female, transgender. They could be like Kaine from Neo for all I care. They could be gay. I mean, if they're an interesting character, I don't really care myself. And that's probably more why I'm not like, oh, blowing the streets down shit, I guess. But, I don't know, seriously. And I would definitely I know I don't have a large viewership in females, obviously, and I don't know a lot of females who probably want to see a giant neckbeard person wamble and shit, but, I got a few, and I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on that, of course, on the subject. Because, especially since, your actual gamer is not like Inidia Sarkeesian, hypocrite. I mean, seriously, look. I mean, Inidia Sarkeesian, on video, amid, she never was interested in games, so, which, means her Kickstarter was a complete fucking lie out of her ass when she said, we were playing video games. But now, I'm injecting rants in now, but seriously, I want to know what you think. That is seriously what I feel like. We can't discuss weakness in these characters because people want to scream racism, sexism, and shit when we do. And instead, they have to be perfect. And I'm not saying this is fact, but to me, when you have to me, Superman, for the most case, in some things, is boring. Like some of the cartoon animations back in the 90s, I thought those were very more interesting, because he had weaknesses, and he had a lot of emotional experiences that made him interesting. But a lot of the really old comics, to me, Superman in a lot of the really old comics is boring as fuck, because unless it involved kryptonite, he was just a fucking perfect American guy, that's boring to me, Like, Batman, the 90s cartoon Batman, is so fucking interesting. You have so many different weaknesses of Bruce Wayne. Of course, his parents are dead, which is basically a universal plot device in his starring character. There's so many injected emotions, relationships, and things. Like, I don't know why we can't explore a character more without just being called the shit, I understand sometimes... I can understand if you dislike a very boring story trait, like who really, to me, and I know Tales fans will probably go crazy when I say this, and I don't hate the game, so don't take it that way, but Tales of Symphonia really bothered me just because it felt like it took every injected idea from a role-playing game that's been used over and over again and uses almost every single one. Memory for getting parents are dead, all kinds of plot twist devices and stuff and that. I mean, it literally feels like it has the Italian trope bag for RPGs to me. It's not a horrible game, but if you, been playing RPG games for a really long time, and I can understand you might not like the way it's being portrayed, it's not being in this creative direction, but I don't know. at this point, I'm just more repeating and blabbing, so I apologize. I'm trying to think as much as I can really talk about. But, you know, I really feel like supporting games, people who make these issues aren't supporting games, that would be better. Because, I mean, Access Game has bought a few different titles, visual novels that are aimed at female audience people. I don't see the people going out to the streets supporting that, you know. And then I don't know. It's not a simple subject, but there is definitely discussion there. So I'm going to leave that as this down below. Let's have a discussion. Seriously, I'd love to hear your ideas and thoughts why this can be an issue, or why we don't see it as much. Do you feel it's marketing? Do you feel like it's developers not being afraid of being called out on shit and that, just when they're trying to make an interesting character for us to relate to? You know, what do you think? Or do you think it's just lazy development, or people not wanting to put in the time and construction to make an interesting character? I mean, you got shit like, what was it, Blades or something on the 360 that has just this girl with like blades crossed, and she's like obviously kind of sexualized, obviously, and it's like, I've never played it, but I've saw footage, and it's like just a very generic hack and slash game that has like no real interesting story or shit. It's just, I mean, is it just people who don't want to put in the time? Like, what do you think? Honestly, leave a comment down below. I'd love to discuss this further in depth, hopefully, and I'd love to hear your suggestions. Sorry about rambling, and I'm sorry kind of repeating a bit there, you know. Anyway, praise the sun, and I will hopefully see you all another time. Until next time.